Hello, welcome to Tap, the somewhat more prim version of Tap, as you can see today. Other than the fact that I do actually very often dress like this, I've done it today to prove a point. Does this somehow make me more personable? And perhaps if I let this grow out a bit, would I have more cred? Perhaps among certain people, but overall as well, I've noticed. I don't know why, but there's something about looking like you don't take yourself too seriously that makes information more effective rather than less these days. It's as if magically if you put on a suit and a tie, you are a phony somehow, etc. For various reasons for various people groups, but as a larger scale phenomenon, it seems to be the case, and it's incredibly odd. I'm not going to, mull over that here in greater detail. The reason I mentioned it here is to talk about information and how we receive information. And one of the avenues of information processing is assessing the source. And unfortunately, I've come to notice, as everyone has over the ages, over and over again, that people seem to really assess the messenger more than the message itself, which means if they like the messenger, if they like his hipstery beanie-wearing character, then they will take on board what they say more readily. Super basic stuff here. So I'm calling this, I hate this chair so much. I'm calling this podcast Glib, Glam, and Guano, because glibness is really prevalent. It's due to many factors. A sound bite gets in your head and stays in there, and when people want to craft an effective message, they make sound bite type messages. And also, there is the minimalism of our culture, our very hipstery culture, and this kind of minimalism has been going on for a while in terms of description and succinctness, as it were. Very soon we'll be grunting various variations on the word dude to each other instead of actually speaking a language. I sometimes feel dude, like, dude. That sort of thing. Now, glam is exactly what I was talking about with the beanie. Glamour, or the perception of credibility or some kind of virtuous aspect. This comes in so many different forms that all play out very perniciously when it comes to trying to get at the truth. And Guano, obviously, because Glib and Glam are full of crap. Oh my gosh. So what got me on this train of thought today? Well, aside from the fact that it's a perennial issue, the article, as in things that I linked to just now in my last video called The Watering Hole, had some very interesting things going on in them. Now, I do not necessarily agree or disagree with the general content of these postings. It's just something I post as a reference that contains all kinds of informational claims, and I can't absolutely assess everything I put forward as a link. It's just left to the viewers and readers' discretion of what they take out of these things. Anyhow, so from psychologyofeating.com, Mind Over Food, there's a paragraph there, towards the end, sort of. It says, under placebo on a plate, in 1983, medical researchers were testing a new chemotherapy treatment. One group of cancer patients received the actual drug being tested, while another group received a placebo, a fake, harmless, inert chemical substance. As you may know, pharmaceutical companies are required by law to test all new drugs against the placebo to determine the true effectiveness, if any, of the product in question. In the course of the study, no one thought twice when 74% of the cancer patients receiving the real chemotherapy exhibited one of the more common side effects of this treatment. They lost their hair. Yet quite remarkably, 31% of the patients on the placebo chemotherapy and inert saltwater injection also had an interesting side effect. They lost their hair too. Such is the power of expectation. The only reason that these placebo patients lost their hair is because they believed they would. Like many people, they associated chemotherapy with going bald. And really, it's that last statement that made me raise my eyebrows. That troubles me a bit, because it's quite a bold claim, and the evidence provided is really kind of scant. I do understand the workings of the placebo effect, and I am actually, at least in sentiment, on board with the writer of this blog post here. Because mind affects body and body affects mind. They're completely interdependent. For more on that, go read Antonio Damasio's books, among just countless numbers of other sources pertaining to that subject. But this is really, he cites one study from 1983. And he draws a conclusion that the only reason those people lost their hair is because they believed they would. Now, I looked around for cancer and hair loss as a first step. Everything with cancer and hair loss was expectedly to do with chemotherapy and other treatments. Now, were these patients experiencing other treatments? And furthermore, there was one more thing that I found on WebMD as a cause of hair loss: cancer, such as Hodgkin's lymphoma. So, was it the fact that these people thought they were having chemotherapy and thus that made their hair fall out? Or was it the fact that maybe cancer is a stressful thing that will make you lose your hair, say from changes that occur due to different metabolic states, since you're probably not eating the same way that you did before? Could it be that some of these people, in fact, did have Hodgkin's lymphoma? It's just, yeah. When you read a claim like that strong, it should make your eyes go. And I feel that a good portion of people might. That is, unless they're inclined to like this sort of person and this kind of subject matter. Which, I like this sort of person and this kind of subject matter. The kind of, people who are promoting healthier lifestyles, trying to point out the fact that, hey, your attitude and your mood has an effect on your health are all very positive things that do seem to have, in certain regards, some scientific legitimacy. Because, you have the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, and if you're, constantly putting yourself consciously into these bad psychological states, it might affect your digestion, which then affects the overall system. It's just one example of how scientifically that's perhaps possible. But at the same time, like I said, you have to assess everything like I just did, and that just does not occur very often. And here's why. I'm going to tie it back to the Glam thing. The Glam in this case is we're on this super zen, slightly hippie-ish website called Institute for the Psychology of Eating, the world's leading school in nutritional psychology, which it has a bunch of things of how to get certified, get your free digital guide, professional, become a certified mind-body eating coach. Learn more. Okay? That kind of thing. You've seen those around before. It's got a picture of a brain exploding with molecules and various wavelengths of something or other, and then there's like matrixy numbers and the power of the mind type feel, which I dig. But at the same time, I also dig getting at the truth. And that's why I can see the Glam in this, because somebody that's inclined to pay attention to this might overlook the crap that will spring up in a lot of sources, whether the people intend for the best and intend to be as rigorous as possible. Even then, sometimes crap slips in. That's why you have to be eternally vigilant. You have to put the onus on yourself and take responsibility to be an active reader and participant in the information that you process. And a lot of people have made, actually, literally to me, the case, I don't have time for that. Over the course of my life, I haven't always had to work and such to the degree that a lot of people have. And so for the longest time, I sympathized. Well, recently that has changed, and I'm still able to do everything. And in fact, throughout my life, I've known people that are incredibly sharp and incredibly attentive and really thorough when it comes to hearing a claim and then following up on it. And they also, at the same time, work full-time jobs and things of that nature. Just because something is challenging doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. What you should assess is how worthwhile and how essential is it to do. And assessing the information that you use to make life decisions, that you use to build worldviews that then help you make life decisions is not something you can skip over. It's not something you can be glib about. Let me tell you an anecdote about Glam before I move on to that glib subject real quick. There was some argument or discussion my friend and I were having a long time ago, and this is where my whole obsession with the beanie thing comes in. It's like he had told me an anecdote. My friend had told me an anecdote about how he was in class and there was just this kid with this beanie who looked like super street, yet he was very, very smart. And oh my goodness, it's like, what's that movie? Good Will Hunting. Yeah, all right, great, fantastic. I am 100% sure, as someone that comes from that actually similar background, that there are people that are very intelligent that are rough and working class. Well, the person that was relating this anecdote was not rough and was by no means working class. Not rich, but it's kind of funny how a lot of times when I would put forth information, because I take myself too seriously, I would get a lot of crap for it. Now, if I had instead gone around being beanie-wearing, down-to-earth, cool street kid guy, for this particular person, that glamour would have made what I was saying pop more. You see what I'm getting at? Yeah, you got to watch out for that because it's really, really pernicious. I'm trying to think of an example of when I did it because I know that I do it. I'm not some kind of pure intellect here. I can't at the moment. It's just a memory thing. So I'm going to move on to glib again. Glibness. Here's the example of glibness from the reading that I linked to. Reason Magazine, Reason.com, an article from 2002 by Ronald Bailey, I don't care where my food comes from. People should know where their food comes from. An organic farmer from Montana declared at a conference on agriculture and the environment I attended this past weekend, sponsored by the Political Economy Research Center. This notion is increasingly popular among political environmentalists. It is usually a shorthand way to express opposition to genetically enhanced crops and to convey approval for their organic equivalents. From a nutritional and ecological point of view, the idea is bunk. That statement there, that sentence, from a nutritional and ecological point of view, the idea is bunk, is a strong statement which requires explanation and elaboration. Perhaps it wasn't the author's point here to elaborate on that, because what he talks about is the inherent good of a very diversified division of labor. Perhaps he just wanted to point out that, hey, I have a strong opinion on this, and if you want to look into it, you should do your own thing. He didn't directly say that, but that could perhaps be implied because he makes such a statement, and he only briefly supports that statement by, at the end of the article, talking about premiums for the organic foods and how it's bad for the environment because ideologically motivated organic aficionados should keep in mind that organic production typically yields a third less food than other means. That means that more land is being plowed down, leaving less for forests and other wildlands. That is a legitimate point. It is, because we have large populations that need to be fed, and at the same time, we can't just cut down all our forests and wildlands and still experience the same quality of life and ecological health. However, there is the case to be made from the organic side, which was listed in my pro-organic article thing, that the land is better taken care of and short of being able to yield again and again. So you're getting more nutritionally dense food, if that's really the case, from the organic farm, and the farmers generally take better care of their land, and it supports local business and stuff like that. So that's the counter argument to that, which still doesn't address the argument of, hey, but it's still a third less food, guys. So these people need to stop being glib, each side. They need to get together and really present information to the public that gives a detailed description of this very strange phenomenon. This fellow that wrote this article on Reason, I did not see at all any kind of explanation for why and how organic food is not more nutritionally dense or healthier. He just kind of made a statement, and I think there might have been a link to that effect, but I'm not sure. The point is that I don't feel that due diligence was done here. It's just kind of a glib style of communication that tends to, and I hate using this word because it not only is it overused, I don't feel like it's very it does much good. Ideological echo chambers, because then everybody accuses everybody else of being an ideological echo chamber, and you just can't win. But yeah, it does tend to put people at odds in that very just antagonistic, bare bones, ideological friggin' traps. But here we go. Here's the thing. There's always a need for advocacy. You need advocates on either side to come together. And then you need to do an analysis that takes account of the fact that you're looking at two sides advocating something, and then forming conclusions based upon that. In fact, I was going to do eventually an article or a vlog about the difference between advocacy and reporting, and advocacy and science, and etc. Because what really happens is people promote certain viewpoints, and that changes the informational qualia to various degrees. But we do still need people to make cases strongly and leave room for them to insert some of their emotions, because as per Antonio Damasio's work, that is part of the reasoning process. It's just at the end of it, we have to assess in as unbiased and objective a fashion as possible, hey, is this making sense? So towards that end, you can read books like Jamie Whyte's Crimes Against Logic, a lot of which I found a little bit, just glibly skeptical. But it does go through various logical fallacies in an entertaining and more or less accurate way. I hope that this has been entertaining and more or less accurate, and has brought you something of value that goes beyond catharsis, and will help you to build better habits of analyzing information and encouraging others to do so. My name is Alex Weir. This has been an installment of the Audity Podcast. Check out my website at https://fractaljournal.com, and thanks very much for stopping by. Cheers.